My name is Margaret Bullitt-Jonas, and I'm an Episcopal priest in the United States who works for the 2 dioceses in Massachusetts to advance climate justice and care for God's creation. If you'd like to know more about what I'm up to, my website is revivingcreation.org and includes sermons, articles, a newsletter, and information about my books. I want to tell you the story of how in the year 2023, 27 dioceses across the Episcopal Church came to authorize a set of expansive prayers for use during the season of creation. The Episcopal Church encourages its dioceses, all dioceses, to join Christians around the world in marking this special season from September 1st, the World Day of Prayer for God's Creation, through October 4th, the feast day of St. Francis. But of course, not every diocese, much less every congregation, actually observes the season. And what's more, the Episcopal Church doesn't yet have an abundance of prayers close at hand that articulate the sacredness of God's creation and that address our dread and grief and outrage as we watch the created world being desecrated and destroyed. Now, why is this important? Because praying shapes believing. If week after week, Christians use prayers that center only human concerns, as if our species were the only species God cared about, or if our prayers fail to say a word about the urgent need to safeguard the web of life that is unraveling before our eyes, then people will end up believing in a God that is much too small. We will fall short in bearing witness to the crucified and risen Christ, whose saving love embraces and redeems the whole creation. The truth is, we need prayers that renew our reverence for earth and the other creatures and communities with whom we share this planet. We need prayers that help us break through our numbness and our silence, and that openly confess and lament the ways that human activities are assailing the web of life. We need prayers that speak to God's yearning for justice between people and between people and the earth. We need prayers that strengthen us to take action to create a just and habitable future. Praying shapes not only believing, praying also shapes action, what we feel called to do. So, in the summer of 2022, I worked with a fellow priest, the Reverend John Elliott Line, and together we put together a collection of prayers, readings, hymns, preaching ideas, and reflections on eco-theology to use during creation season. Some of the material was original. Some of it was drawn from sources in the Episcopal Church and the Anglican Communion, and from the website Season of Creation. The image on the front cover, Earth Icon, was created by Edith Adams Allison, inspired by the icon The Trinity by Andrei Rublev. So we were delighted when the 2 dioceses in Massachusetts agreed to authorize this liturgical material, and even more so when a handful of other dioceses heard about it and authorized it as well. And then this year, 2023, we decided, let's update the collection to include the next cycle of lectionary readings. And we also decided, why not? Let's reach out to a number of other dioceses across the Episcopal Church to see if they too might like to authorize its use during creation season. By the time we released the worship guide early in August, bishops representing 17 dioceses had authorized Season of Creation 2023 Celebration Guide for Episcopal Parishes. We were happy, but little did we know that this was just the start. Episcopal News Service published a press release, and immediately we began to hear from other dioceses. Why hadn't they been invited to authorize this resource? Was it too late? Could they authorize it too? So in short order, 10 more dioceses had authorized it, which meant that by the time creation season began on September 1st, a full 27 dioceses across the Episcopal Church had decided to use these prayers. What do I make of this? Change is possible in the Church. We are starting to recognize that the unfolding tragedy and sin of human-caused climate change gives us a precious opportunity to reclaim the biblical vision that all of God's creation, not just human beings, is embraced in the story of salvation. We are ready to ditch the days of praying for only one species and of pretending that the rest of God's creation is merely resources put here for our literal disposal. We long instead to pray with and for God's creation, for the good earth and all who live here, human and more than human. We want to praise and serve the God who creates, redeems, and sustains the whole creation. Next year, John and I plan to create an improved and updated version of these prayers. In the meantime, I hope they will help all of us to experience the divine love that sustains all things. Stirred by that love, may we take bold action for God's whole creation. And I'll give the last word to the Bishop of Maine, the Right Reverend Thomas J. Brown, who expresses hope that this worship guide will, quote, ignite our prayer life, first step, so that we can act for justice, second step. May it be.